I have a lot of minis, and I don't really have anywhere good to take pictures of them. So today we're going to fix that. First things first, new setup. I have a desk now, which is cool. I also got this little microphone, which was like $13, so it's probably not going to make my audio that much better, but hopefully slightly better. In any case, it, makes me feel important and gives me something to do with my hands while I'm talking, which is good for engagement, I guess. That and a bunch of random camera cuts. The plan for today is that I got these little like wooden boxes from the dollar store. That's quality right there. Anyway, these little wooden boxes from the dollar store, and I'm going to paint them up and maybe like glue some little bits and things to them to make some cool little photo booth kind of things for my minis. I've got 2 of them, so I'm probably going to do like a sci-fi one and a fantasy one.
The first step of this is to coat both of the boxes in a classic Blackmagic Craft black paint Mod Podge mix. Some of you may have already realized this, but this video is a direct ripoff of Trent from Miscast's video on how to take pictures of your minis. He makes little dioramas very similar to these ones, but I figured I'd test my hand at it.
While we wait on that to dry, I'm going to cut up some bricks out of this cork like I did in my last video. I also have no idea where my real scissors are, so I'm going to be using these, which honestly I probably should anyway.
In my defense, in Trent's video, he does kind of encourage people to follow suit, so it's not entirely a ripoff. In any case, if you're interested, I'll leave a link to that video.
Okay, these are really starting to hurt my hand, and I just remembered that knives exist, so I'm going to be using this instead.
Wow, look how efficient and easy. Crafting is so fun when you use the correct materials. Here I'm also cutting up some wooden coffee stirrers to use as little wooden planks. I'm kind of roughing up the corners to make them look sort of worn and decrepit. And then I basically just make a bunch of those. All good.
One of the things that I'm going to be stealing outright from Trent's video is to texture the base of the diorama. I'm going to be using this like brown craft felt.
So here I'm just getting that cut out into a little rectangle that can fit at the bottom of the box. And then going and gluing that in. I intentionally cut the felt to be slightly larger than the base of the box so that I could kind of bunch it up and get some wrinkles. Here you can see from this clip of the back of my hand that I'm placing in those bricks.
So next I want to texture the ground a little bit more by like adding some rocks and dirt. And generally I found that the best way to do that is to use rocks and dirt. So I'm going to do that.
These particular rocks and dirt were dug out of a creek, but if you don't feel like doing that, as Ina Garden would say, store-bought is fine.
I forgot to record it, but I glued on these little wooden pieces to make sort of a haphazard fence or ruined wall. Again, it doesn't really matter what it ends up looking like, it's all just there to add interesting texture. The final thing that I'm going to do before I move on to the next one is I'm going to glue in some very fine sand and this sort of coarse, kind of clumpy flocking. Again, just for some extra texture and in this case color.
As you can see, in addition to the ground, I'm also gluing some sand to the back wall there. It's not really supposed to be anything specific. Again, a lot of this is just about adding visually interesting textures.
Alright, so moving on to the sci-fi one, I've got a bunch of random little bits and pieces of trash that I'm probably just gonna glue and hope they look good. We got some like pieces of cardboard, these sticks obviously, random little bits of plastic trash. I also have these from the dollar store, which are like little sticky rhinestones that make really good rivets. So I'm just gonna be experimenting and sort of gluing those in different places and hoping they turn out good. Oh, I forgot to mention, I got from the dollar store these Final Faction toy things. I don't really know what these specifically go to, but there's some good little sci-fi greebles in there.
Shout out to Bill Making Stuff for the tip about dollar store toys for terrain. He uses them a lot in his videos. I'll leave a link to his channel as well. Although let's be honest with ourselves, if you're watching this, you definitely already know about Miscast and Bill Making Stuff. But I'll toss the links down in the description regardless. Here I'm using an absolute staple of sci-fi terrain crafting, corrugated paper. It's a really good, fast way to make metal paneling. I'm also cutting up a couple of those wooden coffee stirrers from before to use for some pipes or paneling. Finally, just gluing in some more sand in a couple places for some rusty, gritty texture.
Okay, now that these are done, I'm realizing, particularly for the sci-fi one, I should have waited until after gluing all the little bits on to paint everything black. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait for these two to dry, and then I'm going to take them outside and hit them with a little bit of black primer, and then we'll get to doing the rest of the paint job, and they'll be done. Alright, I'm back, and I've got both of these primed. The sci-fi one I've primed fully black, but the fantasy one I only sprayed a couple specific areas. The idea there being that some of the browns and greens from the flocking and the cork will show through in the final version.
Here I've just got a light gray and a light brown, real cheap craft paint that I'm using for kind of a messy dry brush to bring out some highlights. You can see there's also some areas on both the sci-fi and fantasy boxes where I just scrub a bunch of paint on the wall to add some extra texture. Here I'm just going in with some green and then some brown contrast paint to add some muddy, mossy colors. I also take a darker speed paint that I water down and then use all over the ground. Then I'm taking this green to bring out some more color in the piece and also getting some of those nice drips for some visual interest. Moving on to the sci-fi box, I just slop on some of this teal contrast paint to get some color in there. I also use this rust wash to grime everything up. I wanted to have a more simple graphic background to use as well, so on the back of the sci-fi one I just painted this big pink X because I thought it looked pretty cool. You'll see when I show the final products later on, I think it ended up looking pretty interesting. I felt like some of the areas were still a little bit too dull and dark, so I went in with a pale greenish yellow to do a little bit more dry brushing. You can see I go in and put some of that on the back as well. And then on the sci-fi one, I do some of the same, but with that light pink I used for the X.
So I'm just adding a couple of these little tufts of grass before calling it finished. And I'm honestly pretty happy with how these turned out. They're definitely on the messier side, but I think all of the mess kind of comes together to make something cool looking.
And this is the final product. I'm gonna be honest, for the first maybe 3/4 of this project, I really wasn't feeling it, but I do think in the end, it all came together. Again, thanks to Trent from Miscast for the idea for this. He's kind of the reason that I started making these videos to begin with. He started a daily vlog series, which seems like far too much work for me to do. 1 or 2 videos a week is much more my speed. I know we basically just tune this out whenever anyone says it, but if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. It really does mean a lot. And I'll see you when I see you.